I mean, my God, Wemby was unbelievable. Like again, we're gonna talk. I've got clips, Bryce, and I'm so excited to just draw up on these clips and talk about some of the ways the Spurs are using it, just some of the ways they're utilizing him, some of the ways that like he is changing basketball geometry in such a substantial way. Just unbelievably fun stuff from a basketball perspective. And like that Miami game just broke my brain in a lot of ways. Like I didn't think he would be that good this quickly, I guess. And look, like Miami didn't play a lot of their guys. Like you're going to notice no Bam in these clips, really. It was a lot of Thomas Bryant, a lot of Orlando Robinson, a lot of Haywood Highsmith was actually like the main guy that Wemby was matched up on for a large portion of the game. But yeah, like this is going to be a downhill avalanche here, it seems like, with Vic.
Yeah, and what I love about Vic and where we're at with basketball in 2023 is the way they use him. Like he was just born at the perfect time to not say, "Oh, we have a 7'4" guy. We're gonna stick him in the post. We're only gonna use him in ball screen drop coverage." I think they really intend to use him as an off-ball roamer against the other team's non-shooter, and then just let him just swat everything, engulf everything. And that's really creative. I love that we're in that era of basketball where you just don't pigeonhole a guy into that. Now, sometimes I'd like to see Scoot do a little bit more inside the 3-point line on offense, nitpicky stuff, right? That's where we're at with him. But defensively, I just love that there's creativity with what they can do with him. And that's why it's so exciting that you're just going to see this guy be so disruptive because he is so long and the movement, the way he can flip his hips. I'm sure you have, I don't know, maybe you don't have the Jalen Williams clip queued up, but
I
if you
don't.
have,
Yeah.
okay,
Everything's from the Miami game.
okay, fair enough. But the way he can turn and move and then the recovery ability, it's just insane the way he protects and can recover and make up for any mistakes he makes or his teammates.
Well, I think what people forget about Greg Popovich, and certainly a lot of these clips are going to be defensive, but for the first 21 years of Greg Popovich's career, the Spurs had a top 10 defense in the league. Now, the last 4 or 5 years, it has not been awesome for them defensively. I think their personnel really led to a lot of issues there. But Pop is an unbelievable defensive coach. And I think that has gotten lost a little bit over the course of the last few years. He's going to get so creative in how he uses him. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I think Vic could do a little bit better on defense and some of the ways that I might try and attack him a little bit early in his career and some of the things he'll have to clean up. But everything we saw from Vic was unbelievable. Just to kind of give a little, recap, he went 10 for 15 from the field, had 23 points, had 3 blocks, had 4 assists and 4 turnovers, had 4 rebounds in 23 minutes in that game. He was incredible, I thought. Like, I thought he was absolutely phenomenal throughout the entire portion of what we saw.
I kept writing in my notes, I just kept using the word silly. Had just a silly transition Euro step and dunk going full speed. Had another silly in and out between the legs, mid-range step back. Because I don't know what word to use with what this kid can do. And I tweeted it out. He's not a generational player yet. He has to prove that. Anybody who says this kid isn't a generational talent, like I'm not sure they've watched him play. There is
Yeah.
no doubting. And I think you had it in your big board. He had his own tier, right? In your final big board, maybe three.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. He's not a tier one. He is true. Sometimes this stuff is hyperbole. Like I don't personally think Scoot was a generational talent. I don't know where you stand on that. Maybe we can talk about that when we get to Scoot. But Wemby was absolutely a generational talent, and we're seeing the things he can do offensively, and that's what's crazy, along with how he just changes everything defensively as well. And his teammates don't even know how to throw him the ball yet. The broadcast was talking about it. Throw it 9 feet in the air, throw it up above the defense, and so he's just going to keep getting better.
So let's dive into this a little bit while we're here. Hi, Charles Bassey. I'm going to try and do this well, because shout out, good friend of the program, Nikias Duncan. If you're listening to this on audio, Nikias has hit me a couple of times and said, "Hey, please just make sure that you like yell out the time of when you're watching these clips, like so that we can go back and look at these if we're just listening to it on the broadcast." So shout out Nikias. That's actually fantastic advice, and I really, really appreciate it. So let's just do this. Let's talk about this. This first clip here, this is Vic on offense, 11:23 left in the first quarter. And this is their second offensive possession, if I remember correctly. So what you're going to see here is the important thing for me watching him in summer league, and this is Vic I'm talking about. I didn't love the way he handled the ball, and I actually thought it'd be a little bit easier for guards to come in and dig on his handle, right? So, the shiftiness in terms of his hips, just look at how much fucking separation he's going to create here. He's going to go like this far out with a crossover, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Look at where the ball is compared to where he started. And then, second, here, I love the way that he handles this dig. Look,
Yep.
is that Drew Smith that's coming in?
It's Drew Smith. Yep.
So Drew Smith is coming in. The ball was here. He lifts the ball up high. Keep that ball high, Vic. Like you have to keep it low when you're dribbling and low when you're attacking off the bounce. But once you pick it up, keep the ball high. Nobody's going to be able to get you, especially if they have to guard you with wings because you're such a mismatch nightmare in terms of your mobility. Keep that thing high and just go ahead and make it almost impossible for these dudes to try and like get the ball because you're so big. This is an awesome driving kick, just super sharp, I thought.
Yeah, that's what's impressive about Wemby is we talk about how he changes the trajectory of the game defensively, but he also can make passes other people simply can't because of where he can put the ball and how he can get it over an on-ball defender or a help defender. And I think he has room to grow. One of my questions I have for you revolves around his assist to turnover ratio, but I do think he sees things, and because he is 7'4" with that wingspan, he is able to put the ball in places that other people simply can't. And I do want to shout out Bassey real fast. I thought Bassey looked good in this game as well. David Parra says it in the comments. I thought he had a solid game. He was in my notes as I was watching this, mostly for Victor, but Bassey ended up in my notes as well. I thought he was solid.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Bassey because a lot of what the Spurs did offensively to get him involved actually involved Bassey a little bit. So here you're going to see Vic. Vic is guarding Haywood Highsmith here. And a lot of the time, Vic is just kind of giving Haywood like space. That's 15 to 25 feet. That's probably 12 feet of space there when you account for the diagonal that he's giving him, because there again, like Bryce said, just kind of letting Vic roam a little bit. So closes out well here. And just look at this. Like, this is at the 10-minute mark of the first quarter, basically. And I love how he's just like cutting off anything for Bryant here, because if Bryant dives and catches this ball, both Chetty and Jeremy Sohan are perfectly in position here. If Bryant catches, they're going to be able to contest, but Vic is also there. I love how under control the closeout is here. I think you're going to see a lot of short closeouts to where against a guy maybe like Damian Lillard, if he gets switched up on him, that could be an issue, but Dame is an issue for everybody. The guys that have real
Pause it
range.
right here, Sam. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
The only thing I was going to say is I would like him to stay square on the ball in general just a little bit more. That's on the perimeter and on the post. But I mean, he's forcing him to his left. And at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter with him. This is probably just a general thing that I always look for. But I felt like he got turned and his hips flipped pretty quick there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because he's 7'4" and can move.
See, like this is where like I don't know how to even react to some of this stuff, because yes, in theory, you want him to stay in front of the ball and like wall up. But this is where him like changing the geometry
I
of
know.
basketball in terms of being like a recovery defender is like a really important factor.
Yes.
If he can just turn and run and just block these shots and like get back in front of guys, like I don't know if I can like say no to that. I mean, look, this ball is above the square and he is blocking it. He blocked a shot above the square. He doesn't just change things like, yes, he changes things vertically, but he also changes things horizontally with his 8-foot wingspan too. And we'll talk about that throughout these clips. But like, this ball's above the square.
Yeah.
People should not be able to block this shot.
And there's somebody between him and the offensive player. And you're right. Like that's me saying that is the ultimate coach speak where I just look for these things. I'm like, oh, his hips are turned. Why doesn't he square up more? And then you have to adjust to it's Victor Wembanyama. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter because, like you said, it's almost better to just what's the offensive players are going to stop trying him eventually, right? They're going to dribble in there and then they're going to do the Steve Nash and just dribble along the baseline and dribble back out. The more and more he puts this on tape, if he did it to Jalen Williams, he's doing it to a lot of players in the NBA. And so it probably just doesn't matter.
Yeah, like this is the prime example in this game of him changing basketball geometrically. This should never get blocked. Like truly, him getting turned around like this and having to recover backward, this ball should never be blocked. And somehow he blocks it. This ball, when he makes contact with it, is above the square. Like I just like I don't know how to I don't know how to react to that. Like he looks out of position a lot of the time and he ends up not out of position. So it's absolutely sick. That led to a shot clock violation. So this one here, we're going to talk a little bit about how they're getting him the ball now, right? So what this ends up being, they kind of run to get into like a Chicago set, a Zoom set, whatever you want to call it, right? I believe that was that Chetty that had the ball to start.
Jeremy started with the ball, right? And then just
Jeremy
cut over
started with the ball.
and
You're
then
right.
just cut it. They brought Vassell off a screen, pass to, is that Bassey? No.
Yep,
Yes.
that's right. It's Bassey.
And then Jeremy passes and cuts over the top.
So this is your first part here. You're going to see Vassell come through here to the corner, and then you're going to see Sohan come around. Bassey come here to the top of the key. Sohan is going to throw the ball to Bassey right here, and then run through to the wing. And he's going to set a screen here, or he's going to set like a ghost kind of thing, it looks like. And then Wemby is going to come up. And it's essentially going to be like a Chicago or a Zoom action for a dribble handoff for Wemby, whatever you want to call it, right? You know, there are a lot of different names for it. So let's hit play. He's going to come through. It's like not quite a traditional like Zoom Chicago, whatever you want to call
It's
it.
more of a pass and follow than true DHO, but it's the same idea.
Yeah. And like typically in those actions, you would have Sohan actually come down and set a pin down or set a down screen really, as opposed to running through the play. This is essentially a DHO. Like that's, you know, it's a pass and follow. You're right, but it's essentially a DHO, and he's just getting into the middle here. And this is going to be something that you're going to see a lot of for Vic this year, is my bet. You're going to see him end up in this corner set to start. And then they're going to run him off of screens to try and get him loose. Which, by the way, again, Victor Wembanyama is 7'5". Like, imagine running actions for somebody who's 7'5" like this. And I'm going to let the next one play through because that happened at 9:40 in the first. This next one's going to come at 8 minutes left in the first. And what you're going to see here again, same kind of deal, right? So Bassey, look at Bassey communicating here. Bassey is telling Chetty, run through here. I can't remember if Chetty sets a screen or if he just like goes and filters through to the opposite corner. Vecenie is going to go. He's going to be here. Wemby is going to come up again. But instead of what they did last time, you're going to see a bit of a counter here. So a DHO, but Wemby rejects to get to the empty side of the court, and he misses this shot. Vecenie gets the offensive rebound, so it ends up in a bucket. But because of his ability, this is basically a counter to this play. They're basically trying to run all sorts of empty side actions, was the big thing for me when watching tape in terms of them trying to get him the ball. They want Vic in empty side actions, essentially, where he can create, you can force help, and he can either pass or he can shoot over the top and score. I love them getting him the ball in space. That is the big thing for me.
And on the move with what is sort of an advantage already, right? Like he's not having that first clip was great, right? He squared his man up, he made the crossover, but the handle is going to be tall and have some room to grow. In these actions, we're getting him an advantage as he catches to do whatever he wants. And then on this next one, like you said, he misses, but because he has the gravity he does, Vecenie essentially gets a wide open offensive rebound putback. And that's what great players create is they create other opportunities for guys because the defense is so locked in on what Wemby's doing.
Yeah. And because this, if you notice in the first one here in this set of basically complementary actions, in the first one, Sohan, it's not an empty. Sohan is drifting up from here up to the wing again, right? To try and create an outlet pass for a spot up opportunity while Vecenie dives to the rim. In this second one here,
that's also not an easy shot to make when you stop all your momentum, like what he did there. I know it looks easy, but those jump shots are way easier when you 1-2 right into him off the dribble. When you come to a stop and lose all your momentum, those ones are harder to make.
100%. So this is the second one here. Notice the difference with Chetty, instead of coming back up for the outlet on the same side, Chetty filters all the way through, and you're just going to see that Wemby is going to have oceans of space here, right? Like this is a lot of space to attack. This is a ton of space for Thomas Bryant to potentially have to cover. Like in theory, you could have help from this. This is essentially like a tagger here.
Yep.
You could have some help from the tagger, and then Bryant could end up being able to reattach himself to Vecenie if Wemby was to go down baseline and drive baseline. But if you do that, Wemby's going to be able to hit this kick out to Chetty here, because again, the way that his height changes basketball is he can make those kickouts super high to his teammates, and then you're in rotation, and then, like that ends up essentially being like a pseudo X out where he has to go here, and then really it wouldn't even be an X out. Like you just filter down and help down basically at that point. And then you would hope, I would guess, that he could come back out onto the cell. So it really is going to be hard for defenses to deal with all of these counters that he's going to present to them.
Yeah, right there, he makes that pass, and either Chetty gets a shot, one more's it to Jeremy, who then attacks, or if they close out to him, then it's one more to Devin Vassell. And I think we all would agree Devin Vassell is probably knocking down that shot. So anytime you can put the defense in rotation, and these aren't super complex actions, right? We're not just talking about crazy this screen into that screen into this, or just individual creation stuff. You just get a dude that is way taller than everybody else, that can change direction a little bit, that can make a mid-range jump shot, but also can make passes and see them. And it makes it tough on your defense.
Yep. And if you can imagine, like if Jeremy Sohan here learns to shoot.
Yes.
Or if when Wemby really gets good, right? Like this pass is going to be here at some point.
Yep.
Like Wemby is going to be able to jump pass and drill this cross corner kick out, and he's going to be able to do it over the top of everybody.
Yes.
And it's going to be impossible for anybody to really manage, I think.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make this so insanely difficult to deal with. Okay, this is going to be a defensive possession now. This is at 57 seconds left in the first quarter. This is just him kind of trying to cover up and take up space. But what I wanted to point out here is what I think on how teams are going to try and take advantage. One of the ways I think they're going to try and take advantage of him is in drop settings on empty side actions where they have a bigger body that they can throw these little pocket passes to. And then guys like Orlando Robinson, guys like, the name that always comes up in this is Steven Adams, but like Jonas Valanciunas, for instance, I think is somebody that will really cause problems for him. They will go into the body with Vic, right? They'll go into his body and just like push him backward. Like, look at how far when Orlando Robinson makes contact with him, it's like right here. Look at where Vic's feet are. Vic's feet are like right here, right? And then once he makes contact,
backs him up,
and Wemby's feet end up like right here. That doesn't seem like a ton of space, but it's a lot of space for these guys to carve out and be able to shoot. And then what I love about Orlando Robinson here, and again, I feel like we've talked a lot about Orlando Robinson as like a guy that could be really useful for the Heat this year. I love the way he uses the basket as protection, obviously. Like it's just really, really smart to be able to use that basket as protection against the guy with an 8-foot wingspan, and Wemby still almost gets him because of course he does. But yeah. So next up, this is Wemby coming through. He just keeps rescreening, right? Like we're just running, basically 3 guys down low, trying to get to a pick and pop. Pick and pop happens. Cash. Like if you have a drop coverage big that like can't move super well, I don't really know how you guard this.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is, like I said, this is how the game has changed, right? A 7'4" guy. And if you just want to pack and drop, then he's going to step out. And to me, it looks really smooth. I know the numbers haven't always been great and he still has to really prove it, but I think it looks good. Even if it's not, super high this year, I think it's something a lot of people believe in and can't really contest it. And then the other thing is, you want to fly at him? We know he can attack a closeout if people want to start flying at him. So it's a really tough, again, simple action that Victor can really make you pay.
Yep, that's right. And they run it on the backside here with this baseline cut, which is also wide open. Like, I love that. And then on top of it, they do a little exchange with Sohan. He's going to come out here. Is that one of the Champagnes? Maybe. Yep. Yeah. Yep. I think this was a Champagne Bowl, if I remember correctly.
Was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, just these little exchanges where, again, because Trey Jones is coming downhill, I love just having this guy run baseline. I love this little exchange where you don't necessarily know who the low man is, by the way. That's what makes some of these little things a little bit harder to manage, these little backside exchanges. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on as well. Yeah, just all really smart, all really well running offense. But again, this is the piece where it's like, I just don't know how you guard this. And oh, by the way, the reason you run this exchange is because in theory, you're pressuring Duncan Robinson here.
Well,
right?
And originally Highsmith, I think, is supposed to be the rotation guy if they're going to rotate, if somebody's going to rotate in the big, but because they just do the exchange, now it becomes Duncan Robinson. And if you don't have really good communication and reaction and awareness, then you're a little bit late. You're trying to now force your big to close out, and he's not going to get there. Is that right? Yeah. Right now, Highsmith would rotate to Wemby on a pick and pop, but him and Champagnie and Sohan just a little switch, and it seems like nothing, but it changes who the rotation guy is going to be, turns it into Duncan Robinson, whose eyes are elsewhere. And it just that little bit, it is meaningful.
Yeah. It just makes it really, really hard The guy you're pressuring here is Robinson. You're really forcing Robinson into a tough spot where Robinson is paying attention to this guy here because he has to pay attention to this guy who's right at the rim. He at least has his eyes on him a little bit. And it's this set, I think, is like kind of unguardable in a real way if you don't have like a switch defender in as a big.
Yeah.
That's what makes this so hard. Like this is a 241 in the second. I actually don't know how you're supposed to guard this.
I mean, the only thing is you just say like, we're not going to let Wemby make Jones be a scorer. Just go under the screen and make him make him knock down the shot, or make him.
They do go
they
under.
They go under the screen anyway.
They go under. Like,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard. It's a hard one. That's a tough set. I love that from Pop. So here, another defensive set. This is just a quick one, just that showcases the marginal advantage that Victor Wembanyama is going to be able to create, right? And this isn't even one where I'm really going to draw up much, but like this goes from Vic being out of rebounding position. Thomas Bryant has leverage. Like he should be able to get this ball. Thomas Bryant, by the way, 6'10", 6'11", 7'5" wingspan, big dude, right? And Wemby just out high points him.
Yep.
Like just out high points him because he's 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan.
Thomas Bryant's even being physical there. Like he's doing everything he can. And I know it's probably a meme or GIF or whatever you call it at this point, but the dunk and Thomas Bryant's looking around like somebody's not supposed to be able to do that to me at my size. And it is, he just can.
He just can. So, and this is the other important piece of this. So yes, he can get this defensive rebound, but more importantly, he can lead the break then, and he can start the break quick. And if you get transition opportunities, that's going to lead to more efficient offense. Like he is a transition machine because of that. So this one here, Vic is going to bring the ball up. This is the one this is the one where I truly just went, what the fuck do you do? Like,
yes,
I've never seen something like this.
People don't throw lob passes from that angle. You don't trust your guy to go get it.
Not only that, but this is a 7'5" guy bringing the ball up the court. He is 7'5", Bryce. You are running an inverted pick and roll.
With 7'5" and 6'1" or 6'2" or
with Trey Jones, he's just basically gonna like ghost screen inverted like pick and roll here. And Wemby is going to get him the ball. And he sees Thomas go. Like he can see that Thomas Bryant here. He can see Thomas is going to have to at least attach himself to Trey. And what Wemby is seeing already is all this ocean of space here where I can just go and I can dive.
Yeah, this one stood out to me as well, just because again, he brings the ball up and the ball has already left his hands. He's already throwing it. It's like the 3-point miss where he got his own tip back on it. This is actually really nice from Jones as well, to be honest, just the anticipation and just knowing who you are playing with. But people don't throw lobs. Right now, if you sent this screenshot to somebody, they wouldn't say this ends in a lob.
Before Trey even catches the ball here, look at Vic's hand. Vic is, to quote JT O'Sullivan, he's got the mailbox up, right? He's saying, go, like, throw me this ball, right? Throw me this thing. Like, what do you do? What truly? Because he's asking for this while he's behind the 3-point line.
And you can say low man needs to come, but you have Malachi Brandt, who I know he didn't shoot it well in his rookie season, but I think he's going to be a guy that can shoot the ball. And then you have Devin Vassell again on the weak side. So where's the help coming from where you're not giving up a wide open 3 to a guy that can make a wide open 3?
Yes. Yeah. Like this is so insane to me. He's behind the 3-point line, Bryce. Like this is Like this is how we describe this play. Like truly, he's asking for this ball before Trey Jones catches this ball. This is like truly. We're just gonna call this play. What the fuck? Like, what are we doing? I get that like people are going to be sick of like hearing about Victor Wembanyama at a certain point, but this is something we have not seen.
Yeah.
This is why. Like
No.
Giannis hasn't done this before, I don't think.
And
if Giannis has done this before, like please send me the clip. Like I would love to see it.
I thought like, the angle of the pass was something I hadn't seen. You know, like just like because it's not from the weak side, it's not from the baseline. He passes. It's an old school give and go, is what it is. Except now you have a 7'5" guy, and then even just kind of the body control and the coordination to catch it from that angle. He makes it look easy. Maybe it is easy for somebody 7'5". As somebody, I don't know if the listeners, I played Division I basketball. Like I could get up and I could dunk, but trying to catch something from that angle is just awkward. It's one thing when you're coming from the opposite side as where the ball is. He's on the same side as the ball, Sam. I also want to say something. I think the term grab and go gets thrown around with guys a little too often. To me, a real grab and go guy is someone who can grab a rebound, not dribble to cross half court and then give it to the point guard. It's a guy who can grab a rebound and initiate offense, create opportunities. Wemby is true grab and go, is my point. So I think sometimes it gets thrown around a little too loosely. That's not the case with him. He can grab a rebound and then he can create in a grab and go situation.
Yeah. The thing that like really caught me with this is just like the fact they're running 1-5 inverted, like 5-1 inverted ball screens already, and then you're throwing this goddamn pass. Like, come on. Come on. Okay, now here we go. Vic's going to bring the ball up the court. This is the one.
Yeah, this is
at 11:30 in the third quarter, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is curtains. So
in and out between the legs, step. It's so smooth. That's the thing.
And by the way, like the thing that's really sharp about this, again, just from like a schematic perspective, Cedi Osman comes and set this ball screen at what? Like early, you're talking about like an early screen, just like a quick little drag, 32, 34 feet away from the rim.
Yep.
Right? Like he's setting that screen 35 feet from the hoop into an empty side action again. Like to speak to what I mentioned earlier, they're trying to get him in all sorts of oceans of space into empty sides of the court. And like, good luck, Jamal Cain. Like, good luck, anybody. Like, you know, I'm saying Jamal Cain here, but like, this is a inside out. Look how low his ball is here to the ground, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, his ball is so low to the ground. The ball is below his knee right now as a 7'5" player into a wicked fast crossover. And then the step back and just look at like Jamal Cain does everything right here. Truly does everything right here. Look at where his foot is. And then look at where he gets to on the step back. That's not even like a crazy amount of separation.
I was gonna
say,
I think
need it when you're 7'5".
When he really needs it, he's gonna be able to create even more. The other thing is he's in a little bit of traffic for this jump shot. So Cain, like you say, Cain actually does, and Cain had a really good game. Just side note, I thought he played really well. And I'm really interested to see which one of these guys ends up being the Miami Heat guy that nobody's talking about that ends up being a really good role player. But there's there's a guy coming from behind to contest. There's I believe that's Thomas Bryant again in the middle of the lane. So it makes my point. The jump shot looks really smooth in traffic as well, on top of everything else he did.
Yeah. No, this is mind melting to me that this is where we're at with Vic. Next one, sharp closeout from Wembanyama. Why did I grab this one? I grabbed this one because this is something that I can see NBA teams starting to do a little bit with Vic early in his career. So Vic here is guarding Haywood Highsmith. And as we've mentioned throughout the course of this video, the Spurs seem very clearly set on using him more as a roamer so far. And that's great. Like, I think that's the way I would want to utilize him. But a way to counter that is going to be what the Heat do here. So the Heat are basically going to run like a little mini hammer action. So this isn't quite like a screen here. It's more of a slip from Duncan. And then you're just going to baseline drift if you're Highsmith into the corner here, right? And you're going to force Wemby to follow. Wait, let's use a different color. We're going to force Wemby to follow here, right? And he's going to have to close out. And he does like a fine job closing out. Like, I don't really have a problem with this. And then let's drop on the other side here. What's going to happen here? Ball is going to go here. And then they're going to drive into this empty baseline here. It's just classic hammer action, essentially. Ball's going to go to the corner. Vic is going to close out, and Vic does a great job on the closeout, then flips his hips. They kind of like peel switch it looks like a little bit, and then like they don't peel. Like, it looks like there's just like a little mini miscommunication as they're trying to get back into this play, right? It looks like Vic thinks that he's just going to stay, and then let's get rid of those. And then let's again get rid of those. And then maybe Chetty is going to come up here onto this guy. But that doesn't really happen, just like a little miscommunication. And Vic, by the way, still almost gets the steal because of course he does, because he's insane. But because you end up having to help around the court so much because Vic is roaming, it does lead to a wide open three here on this like kick out. And if I was another team, I would be running things like this. I'd be running Vic through off-ball screening actions. If they're going to guard him, they're going to use him to guard perimeter players. I would run Vic through off-ball screening actions like this, force him to close out, force him to communicate quickly on the fly. He's going to get good at this at some point. Like, we're not going to pretend like he's not. But early on, I think that's what you do.
Yes.
And
because what he wants to do is stay and block shots, right? He wants to be impactful in the lane. I'm not saying he can't go out and close out, but yeah, I think you have it lined up right here, baseline out of bounds. Screen him, make him move, make him make multiple efforts. I'm not saying he doesn't play hard. I'm just saying put him in situations where he can't just lock in on the strong side when he's on the weak side and then come over and redirect a shot or a pass or whatever. Make him be engaged in things as much as possible.
Yeah. And what I love about this is like, it's not like you have Haywood Highsmith here. I've showed this play already, but like this is at 9:49 in the third. It's not like you have Haywood Highsmith like running around this screening action to try and like get loose. What I love here is that this could be like a read by Highsmith. This could be something else. Like, I don't know necessarily. You'd have to ask them. But Vic is starting out behind the screening action. And really, like, the way you have to defend this is either you have to have Vic like run around, which is what ends up happening, or you have to kind of switch the action and you have to say, like, you know, Devin, you have to go out and chase this action. If you're going to have Vic start this play behind the screens while he's guarding Haywood Highsmith, right? And he's definitely guarding Haywood Highsmith here. So as you run through it, that's a lot of ground for him to cover. It's hard for him to get around those screens and navigate those screens. And I just think it's a really smart little play that, again, I think teams will start to run him through screening actions more and more. It's just the way that you attack Vic on defense if they're going to play him like this.
Yep. Yeah. Be a really good off the ball mover and just continue to put pressure and hold his attention so he can't just focus on the strong side action.
Yep. Yeah, and this is the what the fuck play part 2, right? Where he dunks on Thomas Bryant from outside of the circle.
With
Uh
his left. With his left.
yeah, he has the ball in his left hand. He is outside of the circle there. He has he has very little momentum.
Yeah, yeah.
He's jumping straight up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the closest play I've seen to a Monstars play at 8:36 in the third quarter. Like, his whole body is still basically outside of the restricted area.
Yeah, he's I know it seems simple, but we talk about this with other players. I just love the mentality though as
Yeah.
well of I'm just going to throw it down on your face with attitude, with aggressiveness. I really like that. And
So and by the way, just look at the way they're getting into this, right? So you're going to run like an empty side ball screen into essentially a little zoom Chicago, whatever you want to call it, for Devin Vassell to come up here. Take this from Malachi Branham. He's going to take this screen from Chetty, right? Just, I love the design of this, like the whole way.
well, and that's
It's
one
just,
thing
it's really good basketball.
we haven't talked about. If teams are going to guard Victor with the people we think they're going to, you're going to put a lot of those guys in situations they're not used to defending. Not those
Yeah.
guys that we're talking about aren't used to guarding the screener in a pick and roll or a pick and pop. And you can't always just switch it because they're used to switching probably guard to guard with their teammate guards. But now you're putting probably a smaller player on them, and Victor's going to take advantage of that. So it'll be really interesting to watch night in and night out who teams decide to put on Victor, and then what kind of issues that may create for their defense because of who they have to put on him.
Yeah. This is a really fun one too here. Like, watch Sohan. He's just like, Vic, you gotta go. Like, you gotta roll here. You can't just like float at the top. I love that Sohan's like already kind of telling him like, Vic, like, you're 7'5", go underneath the rim.
Yes. Yes, that was good. I missed that early.
Yeah, Jeremy Sohan gets an assist for that play, in my opinion.
He should, absolutely.
Like, Jeremy Sohan deserves an assist for that play. I mean, again, like, truly, I don't know how you guard this. Don't know how you guard this. Go ahead. And Thomas Bryant, like, this is the one where, like, we've gotten the other angle of it. You can just see Thomas Bryant look over at the coaching staff, just going, I don't know what to do here.
That's when you know that players are special, is when Thomas Bryant is in the NBA. He's a very decorated NBA, like, has a very decorated basketball career.
Yeah.
And that dude is going, it's like when Steph hits some of these shots and you watch defenders throw their hands up and shake their head.
Yep.
These guys are ultimate competitors, athletes, all of that stuff. And they're looking at a peer going, oh my gosh, I can't believe what just happened. And this is a rookie in his second preseason game. Can you imagine what we're going to get throughout not just his rookie year, but then whenever he really starts to understand the game and get a little bit stronger and grow, and the game slows down and they continue to grow around him? It's really exciting for the game of basketball, for NBA.
He's a teenager. Like, that's insane that this dude is a teenager. So here again, notice, just going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4 guys with Vic now basically emptied out.
You have to double him.
Yep, you have to double him because I mean, what else are you going to do? Right? Like you basically have to. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the catch. And now because you have the double, 1, 2, somebody's open.
You're
Right?
running Sohan setting the screen, forcing some weak side. Great slip by Sohan. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that what Sohan recognizes here is pretty simple. Let's get rid of the numbers. So his man guarding him here, I think that is Jamal Cain again.
Goes to double.
I think he just sees the double and goes.
Yep.
Right? Like you can watch him, you can see him turn his head. Right? Like he's looking here to see where his guy is, which I should be able to draw. Not sure what's going on. He's looking to see where his guy is here. Right? And as soon as he sees that his man has doubled, he goes. Just smart basketball. Empty side, force the double. Man's double goes, or the defender goes. His man dives to the rim.
And
Easy
again,
basketball.
I realize there's a lot of big players in the league, but at 7'4", 7'5", you see a lot of guys dribble out of that double to create room to make the pass out. Wemby can just hold the ball above his head and throw it where he needs it to go. So he can make the quick read, whether it's the cut, whether it's Chetty coming off the screen, whether it's Vassell on the weak side, whatever it is, they can run any action they want 4-on-3 on the back side of that. And Victor has the angles to get the ball where he needs to without moving because he just puts the ball above the defense.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. So this next play here, Vic, awesome closeout. Goes back, follows his man toward the corner. They do an exchange. They auto switch the exchange. Really smart. Looks like he's lost track of Haywood Highsmith.
This is Highsmith's expression on this one is, again, something you don't always see. He just looks so deflated. I remember seeing this one on the broadcast. He just turns and is like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I don't know here. This is the last clip we've got here, as you guys can see. Maybe if you're watching on the video, this is 6 minutes left in the third. I love the closeout. Really, really good closeout here. Really good little drop coverage exchange here. Does a good job making it so that Duncan doesn't have any space to get the shot off. Then he recovers back onto Jamal Cain. They do an exchange. Vassell, I want to point out Devin here because Devin does a great job communicating. Look at him pointing.
Yes.
He's pointing back saying, hey, this is an exchange. We're going to switch it, right? So Vic's guy is Haywood Highsmith here. The reason that Vic is like slightly out of position here, just very slightly, is because Thomas Bryant is rolling to the rim, right? So this is, just your normal ball screen. He's going to get downhill. He's going to open his hips and he's going to go. Vic is the low man. He has to be cognizant of Thomas Bryant here. He is cognizant. You can see he's like kind of looking at him. He's looking at the ball. He's got vision. He's got his peripherals going. He's not really out of position here, in my opinion. Now he's just contesting this shot from so far away, guys. Like, he is on the opposite side of the restricted area, and he's getting out here and somehow contesting this shot. I mean, like truly at first I thought he like had just lost track of Highsmith, and then I went through and like watched the play and like tried to understand, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, why is he so far out of position? Then I realized he's actually not out of position, like truly. He's doing his job, and then he's just rotating over. Typically what would happen here on a play like this is that Highsmith, at least in the NBA, typically what happens in these circumstances is Highsmith would go all the way to the corner, actually. as opposed to the dunker spot.
Yeah.
If he goes to the corner here, the way that the defense would work is you would then have Branham, let's use different colors here defensively, shoot down, and then Vic would be responsible for the X out
To Duncan Robinson.
out to Duncan.
Yep.
Right. Which is great because, like, you know, that makes total sense in terms of defense. But because Highsmith ends up stopping here and going for this little shot, Vic is actually there and just able to make the recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, and again, look where he's blocking this shot. I mean, this is like impossible to me.
I want to say Highsmith tries to get out of his hands quick. Like he does everything he can possibly do. It's and the shot clock's going down. And so he has to get the shot off. And as we've said multiple times in multiple ways, Vic just changes the trajectory of the basketball floor and what you're capable of doing.
Yes. Completely and utterly changes the way that, like, basketball works on the court through his sheer presence defensively and like offensively with what you can run. This was an insane performance from Vic. I don't know of any other way to describe it. I thought that he might be more of like okay, he'll probably go for like 16 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks a game, something like that, rookie. I'm now like not, he might be like much more than that. Yeah. I think there will be nights where the offense isn't going in quite this manner. And like he just misses shots, right? And it might look a little bit ugly on those nights, frankly. But there are going to be more nights like this, I think, where it's like process-wise, functionally, and I get that this was like the Miami Heat, you know, backups, right? I do. But the process here was so on point that's what works for me.